Hello and welcome to the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast with me, Tim Stillman, stepping into the host's chair because Elliot is in his sick bed and in quite a bad way. So obviously we wish him all of the best, but picked up a bit of a bug en route to Vegas. It turns out what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas because he's brought something quite nasty back with him. So we wish him all the best. So I am stepping into the hosting chair. A little bit to look back at Tuesday night's very predictable and entirely unsurprising 7-1 victory away at PSV Eindhoven. We might have a little look ahead to Sunday's trip to Manchester United. And here to do that with me is Clive Palmer. Clive, how are you?
Hello. How are you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's weird. We were just talking off mic and I was kind of saying, it feels like the game was ages ago. Like we probably shouldn't do it blow by blow, but it's only been 48 hours. And that's kind of what we do on a Monday pod anyway, if we played on a Saturday. So I don't know why it feels like such an inordinate amount of time.
I'll tell you why, mate. It's because pain of a draw or a defeat lingers longer. When we win, we just brush it off, smile for a day, and suddenly we're looking for the next one. So, whereas I'm still not over Brighton at home. I'm not over that. As for West Ham, let's not talk about it, shall we? So yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Fewer recriminations, less discussion, and everyone kind of cracks on with their lives a little bit. But we did go to PSV on Tuesday night and somehow won the tie 7-1. I mean, we won the game 7-1. I think it's safe to say we've won the tie at this stage, even with a game to go. We talked on Monday about maybe some of the very few options that Arsenal actually have to change things and whether they might do that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think, Clive, the most important thing, I think the biggest factor in all of this, and there are other factors that we'll dissect, including things like luck and the opposition being a hot mess. But I think having a 6-day run up at this and just having that weekend off, not in the FA Cup, just to work on some things, I think that was the real clincher here. What do you reckon?
There's many different things. I think football will continuously make fools of us all, wouldn't we? Because we were all saying, I'll be happy with a 0-0. I wonder what it's going to look like. If anything, since we went to Dubai, we've looked quite leggy, I felt. We haven't looked ourselves. We haven't looked fresh. So maybe it's taken a bit of time for that to kick in. It shows you just by resting a couple of days, it's not enough. You need to really bring your load down. And I felt we haven't looked sharp, but there was a definite sharpness and sharpness in mind, Tim. Football's when it works, it's such a simple game. And you wonder what you worry about. As soon as that game started and you see a couple of challenges from Gabriel and Saliba, you're thinking, well, we're on it today. It's like, and this started at Forest, if we're honest. We were better at Forest, but we were totally on it this time. And it just makes you wonder. This game it dumbfounds me completely because I'm not the only one. At no point did we think we'd get our biggest goal scoring game of the whole season when we have our top 4 forwards not available. This is just not in anyone's mind. And so that's what's so great about the game of football, isn't it? It's what you don't know what's going to happen. That's what's really exciting, right? So I think that's helped. But I wonder, obviously we'll talk about themes, but I'd love to know the coaching messages for this game, for them to play like that, because that was really interesting and really good.
Did you see what Arteta said afterwards about what he said at half time? It was quite interesting, actually. He said, before any tactical message, I said to them, score again.
Yeah.
He said, I said, score the 4th goal because then this game's over. So that was the message. And obviously we can kind of see that because we scored twice at the beginning of the half. But I think it was... I think what's interesting about this as well, I was going to kind of skip back a bit as well to Standard Liège in 1993, the last and only other time.
Was you there? Okay, because I know you started around then, was you? Like to go a lot around that period. So
I was at the home game, which we won 3-0, and that was a second leg. Actually, we won 7-0 in Liège, and I don't know if you remember, we rested Ian Wright that evening because he was on a booking.
Yep, I do remember.
So
Fortunately,
we
I did a
played.
little podcast with him, and he reminded us, and he was on a booking, he got rested, and then ended up picking up a booking for in the PSG game, didn't he?
In the semi-final second leg, yeah. But what was quite interesting was that in that game, I think Arsenal had 7 different goal scorers that night, if not 6 or 7. And there was clearly, bless him, without Ian, there was probably like more of a sense of collectivism, like
Yeah.
Campbell, Smith, Merson. I think Ian Selly scored that night. Eddie McGoldrick
I
scored.
just
Like
want to say Eddie McGoldrick was the name was in my mind. I remember that goal.
Ray Parlour scored that night. Like there were, and I wondered if there was something in that because obviously we have so many different goal scorers in this game as well. We have 6, don't we,
Yeah.
overall? And I just wonder, Clive, what did you? Because we spoke. Actually, let's go back to the starting lineup before we talk about like what the game looked like. We talked about some of the paltry other options we might have. Sterling as a false 9. Do we hold Ethan back for this game? Well,
Yeah.
actually, the great thing this has given us is in this block we were going to have to rotate players in a certain game, Ethan being one of them. And I think now we've got
We
our
can do
answer
it.
about which one we can rest him for. But were you surprised in any way to see Trossard, Marino, and Ethan in the front 3? Was there any surprise that we kind of stuck with what we had?
I thought Elliot made a really good argument when we were talking last week about maybe not exposing the youngsters to this environment because it's going to be quite a hostile environment post carnival, etc. Everybody would have a couple of beers in them, and it's going to be real. And it was hostile, wasn't it, at the start? It was very
Mm-hmm.
atmospheric, and I thought that's a really good discussion to have. Maybe getting back for the second leg, and then we go from there. And I thought it was a really good argument. No, I didn't say anything wrong with that. And when the team was picked, I thought, oh, he's really trusting them, particularly Miles, actually, because I thought Calafiori's done quite well. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he's trusted Miles. I thought maybe they're going to play Bakayoko out there. I think Miles is better in those one-on-ones. I thought, okay, that makes sense. They went with Perisic, who's, by the way, still a good player, by the way. They went with Perisic. I was wondering, is this the right thing to do? But I always go, well, I don't always go back to it. I always think about it's not just the players that we have, it's the way we play and the intent by which we play. And if you think back to these same group of players, mate, was this the same team for West Ham? Maybe 1 or 2 differences. They may be almost exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that game has really stayed with me because it was the performance was just so off, and off in the fundamentals of movement, managing your one-on-ones, winning your duels. It was just so off. And we look so stiff, we look so regimented. And when we look like that, then the manager gets criticism. Does he really understand attack? Blah, blah, blah. Is he reliant on certain attackers? Does he overburden certain players? These are discussion points that fans have. But see that team, I was fine with it. But mate, it was all about how we played and what we did differently, and that was the thing that stuck in my mind.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of Forest. We looked a bit toothless, but
Yeah,
we weren't losing duels. We weren't giving up
yeah, we
chances.
competed. Yeah,
And actually, Forest didn't try to win the game in the end, because we dominated them territorially. It was a little bit sterile domination, but we did. Whereas West Ham, I mean, we concede a goal. They have the best chance other than that, and we get a red card for
yeah,
Dogso. So, like, West Ham were dangerous, Forest
yeah.
were not. So that was at least a change in that respect. But in this game, we look very far from toothless. I think we have to acknowledge that PSV really gave us some spaces. They're not a defensively secure team. But what did you see in terms of what Arsenal were doing that was different this time?
Yeah, the first thing we all walk away with memory, don't we? The thing that stayed with us in the game, and I was very impressed with our centre backs. I thought they were excellent. I thought they were really, really, really strong against De Jong, and I thought that was really important. They didn't really have the ability to stretch us going backwards, so what that did, we could really go up on them really tight and try to create ways of attack. And so that was really good. And the key thing for me was you walk away with differences was for me the fullbacks as well. I thought the fullback's ability to run, particularly Timber, to run beyond. We missed that because Ethan's not really a stretcher. He wants the ball to feet. Neither is Odegaard. He wants it to feet. Marino doesn't really want it in the channels, So we had to create runners to threaten the back line. Against West Ham, my chief, I think I must have said it about 10 times on the podcast, so apologies. Retrospectively, I kept saying, we can't run in behind, we can't run in behind. And it was so clear we weren't moving them. And they were comfortable, everything's in front of them. But I thought Rice and Timber in particular, and a bit of Trossard, started to get in behind them. And that was the key. The running in the half space from our fullbacks in particular, Miles and Calafiori, but Yuri and Timber just broke that game open. I thought that was the key. And Arteta said it to him. I might get the words wrong. He thought, I want them to play with initiative. And I think, and that's almost like, to summarize it, it's almost like when you see it, play it, or when you see it, go for it. And I feel that's easier to do when you're more compact. So the reason why I wanted to mention centre back, because once you're compact, once you're up high, and you're now in a compact group, you can create waves with counter presses, etc. But when you see a run, it's not 25-yard run, it's a 10-yard run because of the spaces by which you're playing in. So if you see a run in the back line or first phase, second phase, you'll do it because it's not too far away. When you see an opportunity to go and support a man that's only 8 yards away compared to 18 yards away, you're going to go there every single time. Do you see what I mean? So I think the compactness underpinned the instinct and initiative that each player showed to go into areas that they shouldn't belong in positional play, if you see what I mean. Classic. There's so many examples too. Honestly, I've watched this game about 10 times. I watched all the highlights. But the example of, say, Ethan's goal, when he travels across the pitch, goes past the penalty spot to get a strike into the roof of the net. Now, in positional play, that's our right winger. We know where he's standing. We know where he's standing. He's not standing there, is he? So to get that shot. So for me, I know I get excited sometimes, but for me, that freedom, that instinct to go and get it when you see it was the thing which I hope is the next attacking evolution for this team. And you may think, well, Clive, it's PSV. It doesn't matter. If we do that with better players, with different players, with more forward-like players, and the players feel they are allowed to do that, if we attack like that, we're going to cause many better teams problems. That's how I walked away with, mate. What do you think?
Yeah, in the instant reaction, my headline was midfield runners. I don't think I should have said midfield runners. I think I should have just said runners. I think there's so much to this. Another part of Arteta's quotes, right? He talked about the Calafiori goal and he says, Ricky scores a goal as a 9. And then what was really crucial after that was he said, this is the team I want to see.
Exactly. So, Tim, I got to ask you, you're a historian. You're a historian. You remember things in lines, in straight line. If that's a team you want to see, then that's a team we all want to see, that type of movement where we don't know what's happening. Where has this been? I mean, where has this been?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that. I thought that was a really telling line from Arteta as well when he said, that's what I want to see. And it made me think, we'll park the left back discussion until we come on to Lewis-Skelly and the yellow cards and all of that. But I wrote about this week about the left back position, because look at Arteta's taste in left backs. It's so out of whack with the rest of the team. It's like he played Saka there. He played Maitland-Niles there. They bought Nuno Tavares, Zinchenko, Calafiori. He's remodeled Lewis-Skelly there. They're all kind of not left backs, actually, apart from Tierney. And Tierney's the one who can't get in the team. He has this, he clearly wants chaos from that position. And we'll come on to that in a minute. But I think I think one of the things I spoke about in that headline was there was much greater fluidity in the team. So what you're saying there about Ethan running across the front post and all of that. But I don't know if this was just influenced by watching it on TV and maybe the fact we were wearing black shirts as well. But every time I was looking at the screen, I could see runners.
Yeah.
That's my caveman analysis of this game. Is I can see black shirts running into the penalty area. Yeah. And when you've got Marino up front, one of the reasons he's been so isolated, I just don't think he really knows how to do that or where to start. Like, he's a midfield runner usually,
Yeah.
but this time we got people around him, and I kept looking up and I was like, there's Odegaard, he's running. There's Rice, he's running. There's Ethan, he's not on the right wing. Like, it just looked to me, and don't get me wrong, PSV certainly gave them the space to do it, but I just kept seeing black shirts running towards the goal.
Yeah.
Rice kept picking up that left top corner of the box. He had a goal disallowed, and he had a shot from there which was really well saved. And then he has the cross for Yuri and Timber. And we spoke about the fullbacks being one of the few areas of the squad at the moment where we're strong.
Yeah.
And you can see there's an emphasis there. You can see all 4 or 5 fullbacks being used in a game. And, I think against West Ham, what we tried putting Partey between the centre halves and pushing the fullbacks on. And I don't think it worked. Whereas now, I do think there's more license for those fullbacks to overlap. And again, we'll come on to this in a minute with the Lewis-Skelly discussion, but a lot of emphasis on the fullbacks. But I just kept seeing Rice and Odegaard running into the area. And it could have just been because I was behind the goal at Forest and I couldn't see it, but I couldn't see it. I definitely didn't see it against West Ham.
You definitely didn't see it against West Ham. I'll tell you that for nothing. There was no runners there. And it's interesting because we all walk away with something, didn't you? So you could see Rice. I could see Timber. That was my chief one, and I could see. But to some, I think both fullbacks felt free to go. And once they went, if you go on instinct, the key is it's not about just running off into the moonlight. It's about what your teammates do to counteract that, right? So do they run to support you because you got a movement, you can see a ball coming, or do they run to fill the hole you've just left? But the key is to run on instinct, to run with initiative, to run when you see it and you feel it. And then I went back to what underpins that. Now, if it's an instruction, that's great. It doesn't mean nothing if you're doing it on your own. There's no combination play. There's no understanding there. So I thought that was really, really good. People talk about creativity. So I also get a lot of stick, right, about creativity. I often find myself, when people do it to us when we talk, they talk about creativity. What are they talking about? What does creativity mean? So people then focus on Odegaard, for example, said, well, his creation's off. He's not creating the chances. And someone will stick up some green bars. We're not in an argument. What does creativity mean? Creativity, and also playing a creative way, is partly movement. And when you have movement, you have passing targets. So all of a sudden, Mikel Merino had Doc Martin boots on against West Ham, looked like a creative forward. Why? Because he had runners. He's a midfielder that can see people who are moving, and he can see people when they want it with their body language, with their movement. So he's passing to them. And that's the key. It was all about our movement. And what Arteta did that I didn't think was possible was that I think he added layers to that movement and gave people more freedom to go. There's a big discussion at the moment, Tim, about positional play versus relational play. This was far more relational. I've often felt Arsenal, when they're on tip-top form, have a form of relationism in their football anyway. But this is the most I've seen without the key men who, if Saka wants to travel, he can go wherever he likes first class and no one says a word. If we're seeing other players doing it, then I'm thinking, this is the way forward, And I think you talk about left backs there. The modern footballer is somebody that has to be able to play in any zone of the pitch. Timber's a great example. Miles is a great example. Calafiori is a great example. We literally had 3 people standing still. That was Partey and the 2 centre backs. Even the goalkeeper fancied a touch, didn't he, in this game? So I think this sort of rotation movement around a stable back 3 in a triangle. I'd love to see it going forward. I'm not even going the same, but I love what I saw this week.
Yeah, same. And it made me wonder whether I think the preparation time was a big part of that. But I do also think that sometimes when you lose a player, and I think for us, I think we're talking Havertz really, our most recent loss, and having no kind of analogue for that. But I think when you lose a big player, you go into shock a little bit, and it takes a couple of games to work it out. You might get away with it. And like when we lost Odegaard, for example, I think it took a little while for that shock to happen because originally the first 3 games are like, what were they? Spurs away, Atalanta away, Man City away. And you're like, okay, 3 tough away games. Actually, these are probably not hugely Odegaard games anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they're not games where we're going to have loads of the ball and we're looking to create. So I think we kind of got through that. And then we had like Southampton and Leicester at home, which was really welcome because we got the easiest fixtures at the time. But I think the Odegaard shock was delayed as a
Good
result. And then it came to, okay, now we've got these kind of middling games. I mean, Bournemouth away actually is not a middling game. But you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those. And I think there was a delay with that. And then Saka, we lose Saka. What's the first game after that? Ipswich at home.
Yeah.
And it's the most boring 1-0 ever. And I think that was a bit of shock. That was a bit of, we're really used to this guy being here.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to play without him. And I kind of think that maybe has happened the lot. And I'm not definitely going to say it's all over and it's all in the past. But I do think there was an element with a couple of the games. It's like, when was the last time we played without Havertz?
Yeah.
Like, up front, or even at all. He had the flu, didn't he, over Christmas? Did he miss? Was it? He missed Brighton and Brentford, I think, away over New Year with the flu. And like, but other than that, like, he's always there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, the cupboard's getting barer and barer, and you've got fewer players to replace them. And it seems to me like Arsenal went into shock a bit without Havertz, not just because all of a sudden we've got Marino up front, but are you optimistic that, not that it's over, but that we've cleared a bit of a hurdle? Or do you think, like, how much? Definitely there's an element of luck. Like, if you look at the XG, everything goes in, basically. And I think PSV, very forgiving opponents, they're in a very bad spot at the moment. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a PSV fan, and she'd listened to our podcast on Monday, and she was like, listen, Declan Rice, like, our entire first 11 on Tuesday is going to cost half of Declan Rice. Like, wind your neck in. And I was a bit
know,
like,
we had the fear, didn't we? We had the fear.
But are you, like, in terms of a blueprint to take forward, how confident are you that, like, you know, maybe we're definitely not through the tunnel, but that there's maybe a bit of light at the end of it?
Well, there are benchmark games, and I think this is one. And okay, we may not, you know, we're not going to score 7 every week if we play like this, right? But
really,
but yeah, you can't unsee the movement. You can't. So tell me why you're not doing it. Because your players are, you still, you know, the player that Timber was playing up against, Noah Lang, is probably one of their better players. And Timber had him in his backline, had him pushed back to his backline. Now, if he's playing against Anthony Gordon, would Anthony Gordon be lazy and stay high? Would he force us to be a bit more conservative? Because people are going to look at this and try to keep our fullbacks pinned. If they keep our fullbacks pinned, how are we going to attack backlines then? You know, so we have to be brave. We've got to be courageous and still do it until the point when they say, you better come back and get hold of him because he's now killing me with him and Ethan now killing me as a fullback or midfielder, for example. I'm losing.
We did that v Forest, right?
Yeah.
Like, Forest, they get Calafiori, but I say Calafiori gets booked in the first couple of minutes. But as the game went on, again, I was behind one of the goals in the corner, and I kept seeing, I could see the number on Ilanga's back.
Yeah,
after about 25 minutes.
And team, and it's very difficult, right? We're trying to go for, you know, we were trying to go for a league title, so an away draw to Forest, it's not what people want to see right now when we're behind. But it was the start of us looking like ourselves again, you know, because West Ham was such a dark moment. So we're starting to see that instinct and movement, and I think it suits certain people. So we have certain dangers, right? So I see Trossard and Ranieri as quite similar type players. Okay, look, the impact and the way they go about the job is different, but they're small, multi-positional forwards that can play in midfield and play wide and probably play 10 and probably play 8. So I see their profiles as quite similar, one a lefty, one a righty. And they can score. They can really hit that target. And I'm not comfortable seeing our best 2 scorers that far away from each other and that far away from the goal consistently. So for me, it was always about fullbacks because we've got 120 of them. How can we get something out of these fullbacks? But I think Arteta took it to another level. I thought the players took it to another level. I thought both left backs were outstanding, and Timber was unbelievable. In this game, could easily been man of the match. If I was on the IR, he would have been my stock rising for sure. And because I thought he brought an edge, an attacking edge, and a competitive edge in every single part of that pitch he was in.
Ajax boy.
Oh, he
Treated it a bit
wanted
like a derby. Yeah.
He wanted it. He was leaving them with an impression, wasn't he? He was not walking out there without them knowing what his number said on the back of his shirt, and so I thought he set the tone massively as well as our centre backs did. And we found an instinctive way of playing. We've taken away some structure maybe. So when Havertz and Saka are there and Martinelli's there, mate, we can stand in any position we want because we can go to Havertz in different ways. Saka, you can't stop the ball getting to him, and he gets out of dodge every single time. And Martinelli can stretch you running behind. So no one else has to do anything. Just got to support the play, get a fourth and fifth person up there to get our front five. But when you haven't got the stretches, you have to find it other ways. And I thought we did that really, really well. And the team that felt threatened, of course, goals make a massive difference because you get a reward for your hard work. But I looked at the screen and thought, we look threatening. And I didn't feel that against West Ham. And I was worried against Forest that we wouldn't score in the period I felt we should score. I didn't think our attacking intent would last. And then I just wanted to point at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? So this was different, Tim, much different.
And we should reflect on, I really want to stick a pin in this in my mind, because particularly when we do the live show maybe at the end of the season and, we talk about our favourite moments, I think Miles Lewis-Skelly making an underlapping run, pulling the ball back for Ethan Nwaneri to rifle into the net, and I mean that's going to go up there as one of my favourite moments of the season for sure. And a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old, both from North London as well.
Yeah.
And because we're going to come on and talk about Lewis-Skelly in a minute, perhaps in not less glowing terms, but talk about maybe a worry or a development point. But Clive, I just sometimes with football, sometimes particularly with attackers, it can be really simple. I think something Ethan's got, forget his age and everything else, something Ethan's got I don't see as much in the rest of our attack is how true his contact is when he shoots.
Yeah.
First of all, his intent to shoot and the contact he gets on it. Like, I don't think Havertz is scoring that. I don't think Martinelli's scoring that. Saka, I remember like a couple of years ago, you used to talk about like...
Yeah, he couldn't kick it, could he?
Yeah, sorting out his contact on the ball. Thankfully, he did. He sorted that out. But Odegaard's not doing that. Like, Ethan, and I look at the fact we're interested in Sesko, who, as far as I can see, smashes the ball at goal quite a lot, and it's something we don't have a lot of. But I love his intent, and I love the truth on the contact he gets on the ball. And that was one of those where, again, particularly when you're watching on TV, like it's in before you can process what's happened. It's one of those, what's happened? Oh, he smashed it. Like it takes your brain a couple of seconds to process. And you can see it's the same for the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's like, hang on. A second ago, I saw the ball was rolling into the area or rolling towards an Arsenal player, and it feels like I just blacked out. And now it's in the back of the net. I mean, these two, both of them, just possibly the bright spots on our season.
Could be. Honestly, I think the Miles run, you can see that he's trying to do that a bit more. He's like, Arteta said,
the underlapping
you got to be more threatening in those areas. So he's now pushing himself into those areas when he sees it. He's not waiting, because he's a 6 by trade. So the natural thing is to wait behind the ball and look for a, pass through the lines. Do you know what I mean? And everyone goes, well done, son. Look at that pass through the lines. He's thinking, I'm knocking it off to the side. I'm now going to go to create a next pass. So he goes into the area. And I said this the other day, most kids would probably get into the area. They're being posted up. So you sort of knock it back out to somebody more experienced and they maybe whip the ball in. He says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do a little dance move on you and I'm going to cross it myself. Right? And then, so Ethan now, the thing about this is, he travels across the box, and it's like it's like golden rules almost in football. Well, it was for me anyway when I played. If you played on the right, you played on the right half of the pitch. You didn't really want to go over to the left half of the pitch because that was somebody else's job, right? So when you go past
Like
that
camps
line,
in South London.
yeah, exactly. When you go past that line, you better go there for a good reason. Maybe taking a long throw or something like that. Right? So for him to have the courage to go past the centre spot, which lines up the pitch in half, and then strike it first time. And of course, it just flew in. Like his mouth hit the floor job, wasn't it? When it flew in like that, it was like ferocious. And I've been thinking about him probably way too much. I'm thinking about him. I think, what does he do so well? What makes him stand out? And I really think, I think it sounds crazy. It's going to sound crazy on podcasting, but I think he can really see the ball. And by that, I mean like tennis players, they can see the ball. They have the eyeball coordinate. He can really see it. And by that, I mean, if you watch his dribbling style, he can see the ball. Like the ball's, he knows where it is. He knows exactly where it is. And he has the touch to his eye to the ball touch. It's just incredible. It's like the ball is bigger than it is for him. He can really see it. He knows exactly what to do with it. It is unique. It is a talent. It's a real talent, because that was a deflected cross bobbling towards him, and he's hit that, mate, dead centre on the brand name. Bang, centre of his laces. That has gone in. Like, it's one of those you don't want to get in the way of. You know those ones? You don't want to get in the way of. That's unbelievable. It shook me, that goal did. It shook me completely, the quality of it and the finish. You think you're not going to get surprised by talent, but I was surprised by that. Really was.
Yeah, absolutely. What you were talking about there with his touch and like foot-eye coordination, I guess, it reminds me a bit of something Arsene Wenger said about Zidane once, and he said Zidane's feet are like hands, because he said, like, what you've got to remember, it's actually not natural to kick a ball. It's natural to catch it and throw it. It's actually like you can do, like, not quite babies, but very small children can catch and throw the ball very, very easily. But it takes time to learn how to kick it and control it properly because it's not natural to you. And so he was saying, like, we underestimate that when we think of footballers and their technique, which is why he was talking about, like, Zidane's feet are like hands. It's like he's just catching it and manipulating it very, very easily. And I guess, like, that could apply to Ethan too. And it's just a wonderful moment as well. And like, everyone who works at Hale End and who has coached those two boys, under 8s, under 9s together as well, because they're, and there's a lovely video going around as well that Arsenal have put out of them, like, together, like, under 10s, under 14s and all of that. And everyone, because we think about, we see the finished art. Well, I say the finished art. We see this bit, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, like, under 10s, under 11s, under 14s, lots of coaches, parents that put into that. Like, there's a lot that goes into that, and for those two to have that moment, and the picture as well, which is really, really nice of the two of them. I think they both put it up on their Instagrams, just like it's a lovely memory from the season, I think.
Can I say one more thing on that, Tim? I think it's that goal will get replayed a million times in our lives. Going forward, it just could be incredible. But what that goal showed me is their mentality, right? This is the thing there are loads of good players in the world. Trust me, there are players with unbelievable talent. They haven't got the mentality to apply the work required to get the maximum out of their talent. Then they get to the promised land, they get to the first team, and then they got to have the mentality to do not just as much as their teammates, in some regards, more than their teammates. And they're doing it all while they're on youth contracts, basically. This is serious stuff. And that mentality, see, that's where coaches have really helped them, and they don't get here. You don't expose people that can't mentally cope with it. It's not just about being a good player. We've seen Nicolas Pepe come to our club. He cost a lot of money. He didn't have the mentality for the level. We asked him what was required of him. These kids are showing more than that already. It's not just about talent. Nicolas Pepe had talent. It's about your application and your desire to show it. And they have it in spades. And I hope I hope they are accepted. You know what we're like in England? We tend to look at something, then lift it up, and then find a way to crush it. You know, and start to find out who they were going out with a few years ago. Next minute, Daily Mail are after them. I hope they are allowed to develop, because these talents don't come along every 2 minutes. And the fact they come along in the same academy year, in fact, we're lucky enough to see these two 20 minutes after the Saka's just turned up in our club. We are incredibly lucky. We really are.
Yeah, in a big way. And so let's talk about then Miles Lewis-Skelly, obviously being removed before halftime. I think there's two discussion points here. There's a few discussion points about. Let's go first with the kind of easy one. Do you think that should have been a red card? I have a view on this, but I'm like, I mean, he got away with one because it could have been. Do you think it should have been?
He got away with one. He did, and I'm now brainwashed by the PGMOL, right? So the world that I live in,
2,000, you're off.
Just walk off, son. Just just walk off, and because that would have happened if that was many refs. Two that spring to mind: Chris Kavanagh, Mike Oliver. Many refs would have done it, and so yeah, I'm not sure what's going through the referee's mind on this one. I'm not too sure how big the first yellow was, but regardless,
exactly. I think that's what saves him.
Do you think it is? You know, I didn't have a strong view and opinion on that, but there are certain rules you don't do when you're on the last line in a one-on-one situation in open space when everyone can see you. The guy, he kidded him on. He knew he was coming. He just towed it and got himself off the ground and waited for the contact. Right? So he didn't even try to get past him. He just waited for the contact. You know what you do? You run up to goalkeeper, Tim, you see him coming, you tow it past him and just wait. Leave your legs there and just wait.
Jota.
Yeah, just wait for it. And so Miles half went to ground. He sort of he went to ground and he thought, oh no, I've gone to ground and I've not got it. The golden rules normally say 9 times out of 10, that's a card, right? And I think this is the development side of things. I think sometimes as a fullback, you have to put your ego away and say, I'm not going to quite get there. If I can block off a dangerous cross and only show him one side, my defender behind me can box out the front post, or my goalkeeper can take it. You know, people say, "Oh, you got to do more to stop the cross." No, you got to do more to affect the cross. That's the thing you must do. If you can stop the cross, great. Can you affect the cross? If you're not affecting the cross, you're allowing the wide man to pick out who he wants, then mate, you failed as a fullback. I promise you, to every fullback, you will get beaten and people will get crosses on you. How can you affect that cross? So he needs to park his ego every now and again, realize that delaying is also a defensive principle by delaying somebody sometimes to allow your defenders behind you to organize themselves. And he has to also realize you don't have to smash people. You know, you can in centre mid, Tim, you can get away with it in there. The old Roy Keane's Vieira, they do loads of fouls before they finally get done. But when you're in wide spaces on the last line, you have to dial it back slightly. And that's how I felt. That's how I saw it. So I thought we got away with one there. I got to be honest, my gut said he's going. The fact he didn't go, I'm looking at the subs and I'm looking at the line. When is the camera going to show me someone else warming up? That was the only thing I was thinking about after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's 2-0 at that stage, right? Because I think we get the third goal and that's when Calafiori comes on. And yeah, and I think the first one is quite a soft yellow, and I think that's what saves it. Like, of the 2 fouls, the second one is much more a yellow than the first one. And I think it probably should have happened in that order. I think the first one, you give him a warning, second one, right, card, and next one, and you're off. But I'm with you. I think this is very much a PGMOL thing now where, like, they just love red cards. They just love the idea of referees impacting the game. They love them being involved as much as possible. And so it's like 2 fouls and you're off type thing. So this was, and the ref, he thought about it. You could see him thinking, but good ref. He gave himself. He stayed calm. Didn't just go running up, with the cards out. Kind of gave himself a breath, gave himself time and space to think. But don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have complained really if he'd been sent off for that, just because for the severity of the second foul. It's like it's a yellow all day long. And I guess that leads to a wider discussion. We're talking about, before we go to a break, we're talking about like the fullbacks and what they're being asked to do and all of that. From left back, we've had a Lewis-Skelly red card, one that was wiped out, but we've had a Lewis-Skelly red card for Dogso. He could have gone here, and we've had Calafiori hooked on 45 minutes for being booked. Is there any kind of concern for you? Maybe that it's already happening, that teams. I mean, to an extent, it's been happening for a while, because we've always had left backs who invert and do all sorts of things. But like the way we've been asking Calafiori, for example, has definitely been really all over the map. He's been popping up everywhere, but clearly there's a risk-reward dial there, and we're picking up a lot of cards and early subs. I mean, the early subs, I'm less worried about having to do them, because we don't have any attackers on the bench anyway, so who cares? We're not denying ourselves a striker, and we're healthy at fullback, so we should be using them anyway. So I'm less worried at this moment about burning subs, but more like that's two games in a row where the left backs had to be subbed, and the game before that, the left back was sent off. Any anxiety about being a bit too open there?
I think it's. I treat them as individual circumstance, actually, and I think they're both sort of competing against each other. Let's be honest; they are competing for the shirt, and they both want to play. They're both really keen. They've both got personality, and they're putting themselves in areas. The Calafiori one, when he got booked, was it Forest? I think it was Forest against Hudson-Odoi, I think he was. Well, Calafiori early in the season, mate, Hudson-Odoi wouldn't have got a chance to even turn around, right? So he's got to get tighter quicker. He knows he's not as quick. So what you do, you get tight really quick, put arm in the back, make him go backwards. He got there late, still engaged, over engages, and then he can't adjust. He's gonna lose a foot race. He doesn't do that. He does what good Italian defenders do. You grab him around the neck, like in Euro 2000 final, wherever it was, to Xhaka. So basically, that's a big booking. That's not one where it's a debate. So thereafter, you're thinking one other strong challenge, he could go, because everyone remembers that booking. It's not really one of those where I'm going to book you because you've done something silly. I need to manage the game. If I don't book you, everyone's going to pile into everyone else. So you get those bookings sometimes for the game, to manage the game and to manage the crowd. This is a strictly technical booking that's needed to be done. So now there is no quarter given, really. Anything else after that, you're in a bit of trouble, right? That's the way I'm brainwashed anyway. So whereas Miles, I think with Miles, he's just a little bit more explainable, just needs to calm down on certain occasions. I'm not worried about that. I think I'm a big believer in keeping players on the pitch. I've been consistent. Yep. I think the red card, funny enough, that you should give was the one we saw for Konate in the PSG game, where he's pushed someone in the back on the edge of the box who is about to shoot, and the goalkeeper is 5 yards away. And they managed to not give that. Now, if I'm a PSG fan today, I am fuming at that, because one, the quickest player on the pitch is about to take a shot on target, and they found a way to keep the players on the pitch. Now, I'm thinking there's got to be something there to say that event's happened. I'm not sure I want to see Konate. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I want to see Konate sent off in that situation, because I want to see football matches that are tell me exactly what's on the tin. 11v11 where you possibly can. If he was stupid but I just felt he nudged him, there should be some sanction there for that. But the referee was in a situation where he couldn't give a sanction because he was just outside the box. So personally, I want to see players on the pitch. Let's say do things that are violent, like the goalkeeper the other day. That's what I want to see. A lot more on. When you're stepping on Achilles, you're doing things like that. You need to be dealt with. You're putting other pros and save their well-being at safety. So yeah, that's why I'm on it, Tim.
Yeah, and we go 3-0 up thanks to a pretty catastrophic piece of defending by PSV, and then we get Calafiori on, concede a penalty. I mean, you talked about how Luke de Jong tried to play Gabriel, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He played Partey a little bit. They got the blocking situation, and
Yeah.
Partey, not as
Panicked,
wily,
didn't
I think, as Gabriel. Yeah,
he?
panicked,
He
like
panicked. He thought,
felt
he
hand
thought,
on his back, and
that's my man. I can't get to him. Can you stay here, mate? Can you just stay here? Because I'm going to get, because he's obviously detailed to mark him on the run before he gets to the zone. And the guy blocks Partey off, and then Partey thinks, I've got to get past. I reached round and held on too long, right? So, silly, dumb.
yeah, and that's what Luke De Jong was trying to do the whole game, like was trying to initiate that contact, and so it's 3-1.
Did you notice, Tim, that he actually spoke to the ref before the corner?
Oh, did he?
He did. I saw this on the rewatch. He spoke to the ref for the corner, and so he got the referee's attention. So maybe without that, it's just one of those incidents in the box. But he got the referee's attention. The referee bought it and carded him. So whatever he said to him, it worked, right? He got it. He's very, very, very wise. Very wise.
Yeah, wily pro. I think we're going to take a little break there, and we'll have Elliot do the ad read, and we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about the second half, and then perhaps just at the end, we'll have a little look ahead to Manchester United on Sunday. But stand by for Elliot to tell you about some very great products that you should definitely buy, because they will change your life for the better. Right back after this. Okay, we're back for part two, looking back at this 7-1 victory over PSV Eindhoven on Tuesday night, and Clive at 3-0. So I didn't go to this game just because the flights got silly. Basically, like every avenue got silly, like 450 quid to go, somewhere.
You went to see those Madrid flights, mate.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because one of the advantages of not being there was I was able to deal with that. And I had a look at 3-0. And I was like, the prices look all right. I mean, the day's not. It's either going to be the Tuesday or the Wednesday. That's not decided yet.
Yeah.
But like, you can mitigate against that. And so I was like, okay, I'll have a little look. And then PSV score the penalty, and I was like, okay, no, not doing it now. And then the second half starts, and the fourth goal goes in, and I'm like, right, let's get booking. And by the time I finished the booking, it's 6-1. Actually, and I was like, I was against the clock, because I was thinking there's 1,900 Arsenal fans in that away end, and the second this finishes and they can get some signal, they're all going to be on the websites pushing those prices up. So I took the fourth goal as a sign to book for Madrid, and did so. But half-time, PSV get it back to 3-1. We now know, as I said earlier, that Arteta's message was go and score the fourth, and this lot are done, type thing. But I mean, what a start to the second half, and getting 2 goals in such quick succession, some lovely combination play as well. And I think you could see at that stage, like the stadium, the team, PSV, that is, just died at that stage.
They did, and to see the freshness of particularly Rice, I mean, his game was outstanding, wasn't it? I mean, he was just everywhere where he needed him to be, and Trossard was doing some ridiculous. I mean, he backheeled it through someone's legs, didn't he? I mean, on his goal, backheel start of a 1-2 to end up with a chip over the goalkeeper. I mean, this is like, I don't know, this is video game stuff, and it's amazing what flow and confidence can do. And so, yeah, again, I'm a big believer that the proximity of the players to each other drove the creation, the proximity and the movement. Trossard, Calafiori on the same wavelength. And then when they see the pass, they play the pass and don't play out again to go around. Just play it forward into the air. And I tweeted something out at half-time saying, please play forward, don't play back and sideways. I think PSV are a good attacking team. Don't let them attack us, because they will find a way to do something. But they're a poor team. They're very Spurs-like, actually. When Spurs defend with Van der Ven, at least they've got Van der Ven. PSV haven't got Van der Ven, but leave the same amount of space.
I think Lewis Ambrose might have said on the Arsblog preview something about Peter Bosch has got a bit of Ange about him.
Well, perfect. Lewis is smart, man. Basically, he looked like Spurs to me, because you could tell that Arteta knew it, because David Raya he did a couple of kicks straight out, didn't he, into the wide spaces they left. It was like defending 1 or 2. So we were trying to go into the goalkeeper's hands, not slowly, but go quick. because they leave space. And that's what you do with Spurs. They leave to the sides, don't they all the time. If you go into them quickly, you've got a chance to really progress. But like I say, Spurs have Van de Ven, and PSV haven't got that player to cover the spaces. So Declan Rice was outrunning them, and that's not the case with a Van de Ven, for example, right? So yeah, I thought they looked at them, they knew what they were playing against, and they all relished the job. And I'm trying to, I know I get excited, but I'm trying to hold it back a little bit, and I'm really hopeful at the weekend that we show the same attacking intent and instinct. If you see it, go for it. Don't go into your shells. If you just keep playing that way, because it suits the players that we have. I thought you made a great point earlier about the shock about Havertz not being there, because I think Havertz is our game plan. He's our most tactically important player.
Lighthouse.
That's great show. He's the one. He overloads in midfield and works back. He runs the channels on the side. He can receive it on the side. He can go long down the middle. He can stretch teams. He can be there in the box. He does all of the jobs. And before he got injured, he'd covered the third most kilometres in the whole league. Right. And that's a centre forward. Right. So that's not a centre forward. That's somebody that's really doing many, many jobs. And maybe we've got lazy about these players, these lighthouse players. Saka's another one that we just give the ball to and say, go on, do your stuff. And if you can't do it, Havertz, can you work a bit? Can you work around so we can control games? He's given us a lot more control. The goalkeeper's given us a lot of control. He's changed our game. And we've become lazy about these players always being there. And I think that's a great point you made. It maybe took us a bit of time to say, oi, we've got to step up now as individuals, as a group, and find another way. And that against PSV was brilliant.
And another player I feel like we should talk about, because he gets 2 goals, early-ish in the second half, is Martin Odegaard. And, I think I said on the instant reaction, I think the thing is with Odegaard is like, he's not a virtuoso as a creator. He's a combination player.
Yeah.
And I think he lifts those combinations and he makes them better. But he's almost like, he needs those triangles. He needs those 1-2s, those wall passes. Like, he's not Ozil. He's not going to see the through ball, or Fabregas, not going to see the through ball in the centre circle and all of that. Like, he progresses through, he'll drive it forward a bit, but it's like combination
play.
Pass.
Yeah.
And perhaps we just haven't had those partnerships. But when I gave him a stock rising on the instant reaction, and again, like caveman analysis, I just said I could see him.
Yeah.
I could always see him, like, either with the ball, but I saw him off the ball running as well. And he helps himself to a couple of goals here. And Paul was slightly more dubious. He was a bit more, I think he scores 2 goals, but I don't think it's hugely different. Although I don't think Paul's as down on what Odegaard was doing before that. But I'm interested on where you sit on this, on Odegaard's performance. Was it much different, or was it just he scored 2 goals, therefore it looks different?
I think this is almost at half time, half an hour in. I think I sent Elliot a little WhatsApp saying I'm a bit worried about Odegaard, mate. Because even though we were doing well, I still didn't think he was going with the team, And even when he had the penalty shout and missed a shot, I wanted that to go in for him. So I'm now worried about him, thinking he needs that goal. Is he going to get a chance to score? Comes out after half time and he scores. And it was like everything changed from that moment on. I think first half he was just okay. The second half, everything was different. So what's different? So I've been looking at his performances, looking what he's been doing, and I looked at some of the games when he's been sort of pushed around a little bit. And the number one of the things he does really, really well, Tim, is he knows where everybody is. So he has a touch, he does it in 1 touch, or he has it in 3 touches and waits for people to arrive so we can attack in a group. So when people see him doing those 360s and manipulating the ball around, he's waiting for everyone to get up the pitch so we can attack in a unit, and then he knocks it off. 2 runners, right? That's what he does. When he's running forward, he can play through balls. 2 runners. What haven't we done in the last few weeks? We stopped running. So he's going to try to create himself. The phrase I use, that he's turning around in a circle like he's drilling for oil because he can't see his combinations, right? So for me, the first touch suddenly was different in this game. Suddenly the first touch was going to the right side where people were running towards. So now the ball's flowing through the team and he's starting to run through the team. Before his first touch was closing the pitch, closing his body, bringing himself into collisions. And we know he's freestone wet. He's not going to be good in collisions. He needs to manipulate the ball away from collisions so the ball can go through him. All of a sudden, he scores a goal. There was one dink pass in the middle of the pitch to Marino. I tweeted out straight away, Martin is back. Because that dink pass he was not doing. And suddenly, every touch turned from wood to gold. And it was a transformation for me in that game. It wasn't from the start of the game. I was surprised to see him get man of the match, actually. But from almost the moment he scored, the switch went. And I did not think, for Martin Odegaard, that confidence was that big a factor. Because he went from a 5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. There was nothing in between. Fantastic after he scored that goal.
And then we get Riccardo Calafiori scoring on his right foot. And I think it's such a shame he had to come off in the Forest game because it's clear he was asked. I kind of think he's pretty much always asked to do this, like go off-road a little bit.
Or is he just our Guardiola? Is it Guardiola, is that his name? Is he asked, or is that just who he is?
That's kind of the question I posed in the article I wrote. I went through all these left backs that Arteta's had and been like, none of them are really left backs, and they're all asked to do different things. And I referenced Guardiola, and so I was speculating on why. What is it about left back why does Arteta want the chaos there? And a bit of it was like, well, we've got Saka and Odegaard on the right, so we don't need chaos there because we've got. Again, our lighthouse players, Ben White as well. Whereas on the left side, and the best teams I think are lopsided, in a way. So clearly there's something about, and then it interrelates to what maybe he wants from that left eight. So maybe that's why he wants a left eight who's dual winner, to use one of your words, bank manager type, because the left back behind him is going to be zigzagging off road and off map and all of that. But I just thought that was such an interesting snippet from Arteta. I love it when managers almost accidentally tell you something, because managers try not to tell you anything really, but sometimes they let a little bit of light in. And when he said, Ricky scores a goal as a 9, that's the team I want us to be. And he is, I still don't entirely know what to make of him. I think I really like him. Well, I do really like him as a player. But I recognise there's definitely a lot of risk baked in to what he's asked to do. But it seems to me that recently, I don't know, maybe we've just been noticing it because everything else looks so unfamiliar, but almost like it's been dialed up. And actually, his finishing is really good. That goal at Wolves is a great finish.
Yeah.
And on his right foot, this is a great finish. He nearly scores on his right foot against Forest. He looks like a really good finisher.
He nearly scored against West Ham. It was blocked when he was stroking into the top corner. And I thought, wow, this player can do something. I've been thinking about this, Tim. I've been out walking. I've been thinking about this. There's a reason why we like Miles and Ethan. And there's a reason why we like Calafiori. And they've got personalities. And we're Arsenal Football Club, right? We're about to finish second, potentially for the third time in a row. What is it do we need to get over the line? For me, we need to include more personality into our play, more instinct into our play. This is why I feel that Declan Rice got pulled at West Ham. Not because he wasn't playing well. His personality had gone from the game. Right? So what did we see in the week? Do you see his personality out there?
Oh,
I mean, he was all over that pitch. I mean, go ahead, mate.
Little peck on the cheek for Gabriel at one point as well.
I'm back. I'm a big player. Play like one. Show people what you've got. Don't be trapped in yourself. And this is why I'm really encouraged by these personalities coming into the group. We lost Martin's personality, didn't we? We lost him. He disappeared a little bit. Right? We need more of this. It's the final thing. The group is developing its own identity and individual personalities to impact games of football. This is not a time for hiding. This club is going to be defined over this next period on what we do next. The whole project is going to be defined on what we do next, what we do as a sporting director, what we do in retaining players into the group and making sure they're paid appropriately so they stay at the club. We need them to bring that personality onto the pitch so we get over the line. Because over the last 3 years, we've been very, very good, but something's missing. And for me, it's personality and confidence under pressure to hold your technique together when it really, really matters. That's the last thing. And we're starting to see people flower and really develop in this way. And our best 3 forwards are nowhere near the pitch. And they've all got personality. So and when they're looking at this, they're thinking, when I come back, do you think Martinelli is going to stand at a touchline anymore? Or is he going to move? What do you think is going to happen if you create this attacking framework for players who are actually better at doing it? So I'm big on Calafiori. I think there are things that we need to brush up on defensively. But I'm huge on the personality he brings to a game. Because he keeps you're somebody who watches loads of football matches. He keeps popping up in areas that you don't expect to see him, Tim. But that means that's a good sign, a really good sign.
And just to kind of wrap up on this going, none of us expected this at all, and for the second leg to be a non-event, and that's so useful because I've been looking at this little round of games and I've been thinking it's going to be 12 players at the most, like starting those games, and we can make adjustments in the fullback areas. But I'm thinking, when can we leave Ethan on the bench for a game because he can't do all of this, and worrying a little bit about certain players. And I don't think for 1 minute we're going to make 11 changes against PSV. I don't think that's Arteta's style, and I don't think we have 11 players anyway to come in. But I think that clarifies Sunday for us as well in a really nice way. We really know we can go for it. And United have playing Real Sociedad away tonight, and they're very depleted. And it just brings a bit of clarity to Sunday. We know we can go full throttle because on Wednesday we're going to have, a nicer game. It's going to be a weird game, actually, I think. But I guess just your overall kind of response to this, and not just how surprised you are by this as a one-off, but how much it's just needed for this period. And, we talked about, and, we were kind of, neck on the line, the season's on this tie, because if we go out of this, people are going to be rightfully unhappy. It's going to kill the season. It's going to be a total anticlimax, and just how much breathing space this gives Arsenal.
Yeah, they almost did too well because everyone will chuck their tickets on the ticket exchange now, won't they? Because there's no jeopardy. And the game, the PSV game, is a Cat A game, Tim. So people think, I'll have that money back in my pocket, right? If they can. Other people get a chance to go to the game, right? So I went to Zagreb at home game and I thought it was going to be empty. But it wasn't. It was full. So more and more people are starting to get to the football matches. So I do think it was needed. If anything, it sort of made me think, oh man, I wish we'd have found this a little bit sooner. If we're honest, and we're dreamers. Well, I'm a dreamer anyway. Right? If we're honest, the moment Saka went down, we was in a bit of trouble, weren't we? Against Crystal Palace, with that we're in a bit of trouble. We could. But when Havertz went, that was it really for me. But Saka is the man. He is the man. We're just forgetting how clearly he's the man. But I'm hopeful that the benefit is that he has had a chance to have a much needed break and a rest, hopefully not too career damaging, which he's never going to get because everyone's going to pick him, club and country, everyone's going to pick him all of the time. He gets a chance to have a look at the game, but also the manager gets a chance to have a look at the game without key people, and other players get a chance to look at how the team is perceived and their roles within the team. I'm hoping it makes us stronger as individuals. I'm hoping if we layer on top, which we need to do, we are going to have a much better unit for it. People quite rightly shouting at me right now saying we'd have bought a striker in January, we'd still be in it. Yes and no. I don't know. I wish someone would give me a name that I'm convinced was going to work and not stop anything going forward. I think the last summer was the issue, if anything, that we didn't quite maybe turn over a player, one more player, and make sure we had something to underpin Havertz for me. That was the miss. That was the miss. And we'd had that. I think we'd have rested Havertz a bit more. We'd have rested other players a bit more. Potentially they could be more available. So, but hey, that was then, right? And I suppose I'm over it nearly, shall we say? Not quite, but nearly.
I mean, it was Sesko, wasn't it? That's
It was Sesko.
Exactly.
I should have just said it, shouldn't I? We'd have got Sesko in the summer. We'd be fine now, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's what we were trying to do. But let's have a little look ahead to Sunday then, away at Man United. And they've got a lot of injuries. I think they've got about 9 players out at the moment. They're only taking 18 players to Real Sociedad. I think by the sounds of it, Harry Maguire and Diego Ugarte, Amorim was kind of talking about, we've got a lot of injuries, so we've got to look after players and make sure we don't get too many more. So I do think that they'll be available. I think he's going to consider both of them very important players, because I think we're going to see a repeat of what they did in the FA Cup. I think for United, almost sometimes these games suit them because they can play as they are, which is a lower mid-table team. So they can deep block and play on the break. I think it's harder for them to do that when they play Ipswich and Crystal Palace and teams like that, and they run into trouble. But they can play us like a lower mid-table club.
Yeah.
And I think also what's kind of interesting, I guess, is they set up in a back 3. So really it's going to be a back 5, and I imagine in front of that they're going to have Ugarte, and then they'll have someone like Casemiro. I think it will be 3 centre-backs and 2 destroyers in midfield, and then they'll kick it forward, and they'll hope Bruno Fernandes or Garnacho can do something on the break. And not least because one of the big problems for United this season is their build-up's got even slower than it was under Ten Hag, and they've still got those centre-backs that don't allow them to kind of play on the halfway line. But I see that as less of a problem against Arsenal. How do you see this game on Sunday? Because let's face it, we've been to Old Trafford when they've had loads of injuries with expectation before, and I remember how those games have gone.
Yes, mate. We're too wise for this, Tim. We're not falling for this, right? We know what happens when Man United see the Arsenal badge, mate. They suddenly refined all their previous powers, didn't they? And and so even last year when we were flying for the league, we got out of there for 1-0, didn't we? I was glad. I'll take the same again. They lack athleticism. That's the key thing for his system to work. They haven't got enough runners. They don't have enough ball carriers. So their ability to transition through the pitch, although they got us in the cup game, their ability to transition through the pitch isn't really suiting the players that they have, right? So they're a non-running team. They did play De Ligt and Maguire against us, didn't they? I think in the last game, and I think they're sort of the players that Havertz struggles against. Heavy, big bodies that are heavier than him, a lot heavier, and as fast as him. So if I'm with them, you've got to almost play a non-contact game, and I think it'll be a different challenge. Mourinho won't go up against them so much. He'll drop in feet, turn around and go. I think if we do the same things with our movement and be unstructured in our movement, I think we got a chance to create a different problem for them. I always worry. I still worry about Manchester United. Maybe it's just because we've seen too much, Tim, in the past. We've seen too much, right? And Elliot says to me, "It's time for us to give him a 5-0. It's time." I mean, no, just calm down, Elliot. Calm down. It's not time. It's not time. 1-0's fine. But wouldn't it be nice to finally give them something back they've given us in the past? Some real heavy beatings, that we've had to wear. But I think if we can just, what they lack, they don't know who they are at the moment. They haven't got a centre forward they can really rely on. Højlund doesn't really get chances quickly enough. Xerxes, I'm not sure what he is. He never quite gets into the box. They're talking about playing a 17-year-old in Chido Obi, which is one we just literally, he's so young, they didn't put him in the Europa League squad. I didn't think he'd be this impactful, but he's showing more impact than Højlund, who's really struggling at the moment. And there's so many things in that club. And I don't like the Schadenfreude stuff. Imagine being a Manchester United fan, right? They've just spent £1 billion in interest since the Glazers have taken them on. The club is going through a cost crunch where they're doing that at one end, paying silly money for agents and powered players at another end. And at the other end, they're firing dinner ladies. I mean, the morale in the club must be awful, and we're all football fans, and then people can say, laugh at them, Clive, laugh at them. I don't laugh, because football's very important to people. And if you see that thing happening to your club, it affects your own personal morale. So I do have a lot of sympathy for those Manchester United people at the moment. But they've got here for their own volition, right? They've got here because they haven't managed things quickly enough, and they've just not done it. So they need to do it now. I'm not sure they've got the right people to do it, but that's another podcast, right?
Yeah, and whether they've got the money to do it either,
Yeah, exactly.
quite frankly. How do you, just in closing, how do you see them approaching this then? Because on one hand, their Premier League season's dead. There's nothing for them in it. They're out of all the domestic cups. So the Europa League is their everything. But at the same time, like you said, Man United seem to find another gear for us. I mean, if I were Arteta, and we know he likes to try and use every edge he can get. I'd be saying, like, think about how you felt with that FA Cup game when they had 9,000 fans behind the goal, all kind of dancing with the penalty shootout and all of that, and almost like use that kind of pain. But how do you see any sort of drop off from United in terms of this coming in between two legs of a Europa League tie, when really that's their whole season right there?
You could well get it. Plus, we get the 2 extra days. No, we had to travel away, but they have to travel away as well to Spain, didn't they? So we're slightly fresher for a change. So we got to go up there. I think we're both in the ground for the United game, and the way they dominated the stadium, Tim, with the 9,000 behind the goal, you could feel the connection between the team and the fans. They went down to 10 men, so their game plan was sorted for them, wasn't it? They could drop in and just try to hang in there. And the fans knew what they were doing, and the team reacted. So that connection was there. On Sunday, I believe there are going to be protests in the ground again, much like there was at Wolves when you were there. There's going to be protests again. So that connection between the fans and the players won't be there. And if it is there, it'll be a negative connection. So if I'm doing my team talk, I'm definitely saying what you just done. The slide of them enjoying themselves on our pitch in the FA Cup, that should be slide 1. And slide 2 is start fast. Because when we scored that first goal early, we're a different team. I don't know the data, but I watched the games, and I can't remember too many times when if we score early, whether it be a set piece, open play goal, that we don't go on to have a fantastic afternoon, right? So I'd say start fast, make them disconnect from their crowd, get that crowd against them. They're already against the club anyway, and you represent the club on the pitch, the players do, and they're not happy with some of them who've seen off many different managers and who are not playing well for them. Don't give that crowd something to hold on to. So that's what I would say. Take it away from them, be really aggressive, really attack-centric, and make them go back towards their goal and get that first goal and watch the whole place crumble. That's my team talk anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Apparently, some Manchester United fans are going to wear black at the game to signify the slow death of their club. So I think it's quite interesting for football that nearly every away game now, we're talking about going to grounds where fans are protesting.
Yeah.
And, Chelsea fans are we're talking about the richest, in terms of revenue, the richest club in the world, making loads of layoffs. Like, I think football's in a really unhealthy place.
It is, Tim, and we have to mention the fact that the letters have come out about season tickets have come out again, and it is a head shaking moment, right? I know the cost base in football is increasing, but we should be looking at that cost base as to why, and rather than just say, okay, the cost base is increasing, we need to bring that extra money back in, right? So, this is not my mastermind subject, but it is disappointing, shall we say? It's disappointing,
Definitely.
and particularly it's 2 years in a row. So
Yeah, and there's some stealth rises as well because there's fewer cup credits, so you have to pay individually for more cup games. So actually, in real terms, it's actually a very significant rise over the last 2 years. Lots of squeezes being put on things like ticket exchange, and next season,
Yeah,
if you put your ticket on the ticket exchange on the day of the game, you don't get your money or your credit or anything. Like, it feels like they're putting the squeeze on people, and I
it
really
does.
think it's
But you
unfair.
know
But
what? You know what, mate? When I saw the Zagreb game and I saw how many seats were filled, I realised there's demand out there that's beyond what
Mhm.
even I thought. And I thought, crikey, if they see that demand, what's going to happen? This is going to
Yeah,
happen,
it'd be
right?
interesting to see the second leg.
It will be.
Because as you say, that's a category A as well, and I
Yeah.
really don't think PSV should be a category
No,
A.
that's a
But
B game, definitely.
yeah, definitely. But maybe we'll do like a Patreon podcast, and there's quite a lot of stuff happening around ticketing, away ticketing as well, over the last year or two, and maybe it'd be helpful for me to set some of the context
That'd be
around
really
all of
good.
that.
That'd be really good.
But yeah, Elliot has asked me to tell you there are going to be 2 Patreon episodes tomorrow on Friday, if you're listening to this now. An episode on Andrea Berta from an Atleti perspective, as well as a Director of Football episode. So we'll have 2 pieces of Patreon content for you because we didn't get anything out on Wednesday because Elliot is as sick as a dog. But he's hopeful of being able to turn that around by tomorrow. So for the patrons among you, there's 2 pieces of content. If you're not a patron and you'd like to be, we'd love to have you. If not, we will always have 2 free podcasts a week. And we'll have obviously an instant reaction after the game on Sunday, and we'll have a main pod for you on Monday. But until then, Clive, thanks so much for that.
Thank you very much.
And we will speak to you after Manchester United 1, Arsenal 7.